what is a node, let's create a Python node in your new Python package. So first, you will write the node and then you will see how you can install it and run it. And then you will see how you can improve the node with object-oriented programming, and you will get a complete template you can use for all your Python node. So let's go into the Ros2 workspace that you already created. In the source folder, you have the My Python package. And in this package, we have a folder which has the same name as the package. We will go inside this folder, and here we will create our file to write the node. So for example, let's name this file my first node.python. You can now edit the file, so let's find it here. And first we will add the interpreter line for Python 3. Okay, so Ros2 only works with Python 3, no Python 2 anymore. And we will create a structure for the main. Okay, we will create a main function here, and we will put optional arguments. Okay, so that is a very basic Python structure, and now we want to use the Ros2 functionalities. So to use Ros2 functionalities, we will import rclpy. rclpy, if you remember, we added the dependency to rclpy, and you can find it here in package.xml. This is the Ros2 library for Python. So the first thing we will do in our program is to initialize Ros2 communication with rclpy.init, and we will pass the arguments from the main. So args equals args. Okay, so the arguments from the main function will go to the arguments named args in the rclpy.init. This line is the first line you need to write in every Ros2 program. It basically starts the Ros2 communication, and if you try to use any of the Ros2 feature without that line, it will of course fail. So then you will write your code, and at the end you will write rclpy.shutdown. That will be the last line of your program. So basically you first initialize Ros2 communication, you do your program, and then you shut down the communication. We will now add a node inside the main, so we will create a node, and to do that we will import the node class from rclpy.node, import the node class, and we will simply use the node constructor here with the node name as a parameter. So let's call it Python test, like that. That is the name for the node. Note that it's best practice not to, for example, you could say Python test node, but for the name of the node it's better not to use node because it will be redundant. So your node will be created, and then immediately after that the Ros2 communication will be shut down and the program will exit. When the program exits, your node goes out of scope and it is destroyed with everything that you've created inside this node. So you don't need to do it manually. And because this program will not do anything, let's actually print something with get logger. So you will use the get logger function from the node object, and then you have info, for example, and let's say hello Ros2. So that is your hello world in Ros2. So to recap, you first initialize Ros2 communications, then you create your node, you give it a name, you then print something and you shut down the Ros2 communication. The node is not the executable, the node is not the file, the node is created inside the file, okay? That is important. And the name of the node is not the name of the file. So now let's try to run this node. The most basic way to run this file is simply to run the Python script. So we will mark it as executable and simply launch it. As you can see, we have the hello Ros2. It's working. You have the info level flag for the log functionality, the timestamp, and the name of the node, followed by the actual log. You will have that for every log you do with Ros2. And we will come back to our program and add one more thing here, rclpy.spin, and we pass the node to the function. That function is very important and you will use it in almost all your programs. So what does it do? Spin will basically put the program here, will pause the program and will allow your node to continue to be alive. So for now, the node has no real functionality, but later on, when you start to add some publishers, subscribers, services, etc., then you will have code to execute and you will have callbacks, and those callbacks will be able to be called from the spin function. So let's see what it does. As you can see, we still have the hello Ros2 line, and now the program is still running. Okay, nothing is happening because we didn't ask it to do anything, but the program is still here. And if you press Ctrl+C, then the program exits. And don't worry about the log here. When you press Ctrl+C, it doesn't really matter. So when you press Ctrl+C, the spin will stop. So the node will stop spinning, and then the program will resume and you have the shutdown of the Ros2 communications. I will often come back to this spin function and you will understand it after some practice. So that is the most minimal node you can write. Now we will see how to install this node. So with Python, of course, you don't need to compile the file to execute it. You just mark it as executable and you can just run it like that. But with Ros2, we will install the file into your workspace. Because if you always want to run your node from the terminal directly like that, it's not that scalable and you will be able to have much more functionalities if you install the file, and we will see the benefits a little bit later. So let's see how to install this file. We will install it from the setup.py here. So you have setup.cfg, which will tell where you will install the file, and here you will say in this array console script the files and the nodes to actually install. So if you take a look at this setup.py file, you have, for example, version, maintainer, description, license, and that is quite similar to what you had in the package.xml here. So if you ever need to release this package, you will need to edit that and also the lines here. So those will be identical to those in the package.xml. So to install the node, we will add a new line here. And we will need to specify a name for the executable. So what will Ros2 do when we install the file? It will take this file here, it will copy it and make some modifications so it becomes an executable for Ros2, and that executable will be installed in the install folder of your Ros2 workspace. So we need to specify a name for the executable, and let's use something different here. PyNode. So we use Python node for the executable. Okay. Then you will need to put equal the name of the package, my Python package, dot name of the file, my first node, and then 2 point and the name of the function you want to start. So we will start from the main function right here. That's why we created this main function instead of putting all the code right here. So that should be okay. We will go to our Ros2 workspace and colcon build. We can use packages select, so we only build the my Python package. And let's see where this node has been installed. So we will go inside the install folder. Okay, you have the my Python package, and inside that you have lib. So why lib? Because here you have lib. Okay, that's from the setup.cfg. You go to lib, and inside lib you will go to my Python package, and here it is. So you can run it and it works. Then you press Ctrl+C to kill the node. So you already have two ways to start your Ros2 node, either directly from the file that you created or from the file that you installed. And note here, the name of the file is PyNode, just as we requested here. It's not the name of the file you wrote. Okay, that's very different. And we will not use either of those two options when we actually start Ros2 node. We will use a Ros2 command line tools named Ros2 run. So after you've compiled your package and installed the node, go in another terminal, and it's better to source first your bash rc, because this will source your Ros2 workspace for this environment. And when, for example, you create a new package or you create a new node, it's always better to source your environment through the bash rc, so you are sure you have the latest version and you don't get any error when you try to access some node or other stuff. And we will simply type Ros2 run, then followed by the name of the package, my py package, followed by the name of the executable. You start it and it should work. Yes, the node has been started just as before, and you can kill the node. So in the next section we will see more about this command and the other Ros2 command line tools. And to recap quickly, so you have created a Python file here, and inside this file you have created a node. Okay, so the node will be created when you actually write this line, when you call the node constructor. And one important thing to be sure to understand is that here you have the name of the file, which can be different from the name of the node, which can be different from the name of the executable. Okay, that's often a common misunderstanding when you start with Ros2. And now that you can create and run and install your first Python node, let's see how we can improve this structure here with object-oriented programming, because that is the recommended way to write your node with Ros2 and it will make your life much easier in the future.